meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
All right.
All right, can everybody see that? I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yep.
All right. So, if everybody has Hunt Fish New York, which I'm sure you all do, after you open up the icon for Hunt Fish New York, you come to the login screen, you hit your name. All right, and it comes to the dashboard, and you'll see all the great features for Hunt Fish New York that have always been there, and they're improved somewhat. And we have Colleen Donetto on the line today also, who will help us if there's any questions about the general Hunt Fish New York. But, same things. You got your license profile, your reports, your transferred DMPs, and your reporting and your user profile. And you can also purchase licenses and tags. Okay. But then the new feature that we're going to talk about today is up in the right-hand corner, and it's called the tackle box. And if you click on that, you just hit that with his finger. All right. You're going to have a disclaimer. Now, there's two disclaimers. You're not seeing the first one. The first one comes up that basically explains the tackle box, what it is and what it is not. That only opens up once when you download it or when you do subsequent downloads. All right. And then you don't have to see that again. This one will come up all the time. And this one's basically saying, it talks about statewide and area regulations are basically default. And if you don't see something highlighted, statewide regulations apply. That's it in a nutshell. But we're gonna have that up at least for a long time for this first year, just to remind anglers of that. So, and if you clicked on statewide area regulations, it would take you there. We're not going to go there now, but you can just hit continue and get right into the app. All right, so this app is geographically interfaced. As you zoom in, different features become available. Right now you have the counties, some of the major cities. You zoom in a little bit more, you start seeing some lakes, and then bang, all right, you're seeing all the access sites. And I always think this is pretty impressive because I bet you for many of our anglers, they don't understand really how many access sites we are blessed with in this state and the hard work that the state has put in to provide access to our anglers. These access sites are largely DEC, OPRHP. There's some canals and some New York City DEP sites, but all in all, I think that's pretty impressive. All right. So there's a couple ways you can search for a body of water. You can pan and zoom around the state. I believe Scott's going to take us to Chautauqua Lake. All right. And you can see, yep, there's Chautauqua Lake. But you can also search for a body of water. So pan out of there, Scott, and go to another side of the state. There you go. And thank God this is a smart search, because if you're like me and can't spell too well, it'll actually, it works smart for you using the key letters that you put in. So it's typed in shot, and anything that has CHAUT will come up. We can see we have Chautauqua Creek, Little Chautauqua Creek, but Chautauqua Lake is right up top there. So he's going to click on that with his finger, and voila, we're right back to Chautauqua Lake. So we're on Chautauqua Lake. You can see the lake is in dark blue, highlighted with a light blue ring. You can see the access sites. Scotty, can you pan and zoom in a little bit for us? All right, so we'll zoom in a little bit more, and then he's going to click on the middle of the lake somewhere, or anywhere in the lake. And your first screen is your information screen. So it kind of verifies, yep, I am on Chautauqua Lake. Gives you a little bit of information there right off the bat. And we thought this was important. Tells you the surface area, and also gives you max depth. I mean, because if someone was cruising around, just panning around looking for a certain water or something, this may help them. So then if we want to get into more details, we hit the view details, that orange, yellowish orange bar. That gives us the same information, but this time it also includes some launch site information, or access information, I should say. And it'll break it down by the type of launches that may be there. So in this case, you can see there's 0 hand launches and no unimproved trailer launches, but there are 6 trailer launches. All right. For Chautauqua Lake, because it is one of our bigger lakes and more important lakes, we also have a more info button there. If you were to click that, and that's not available on all of our lakes and ponds or streams, only our more popular ones, it will take you right to the DEC website, where there's more information about the body of water. could be just some background on it, could be fishing information. It could have some of our technical reports or management plans, and also a morphometric map. This will be important down the road for our top waters. As I've told you guys in the past, the one thing that we're working on is our top waters initiative. We'll have fisheries management plans and report cards for all these waters down the road. So Scotty, let's close out of this and go back to the tackle box screen. All right. If you can move your eyes down to the bottom of the application, you see 4 icons there. To the left, it says details. That's what we're actually in there. We're in there now. And then you see what we call 3 other drawers. And we call them drawers because they're drawers like a tackle box, okay? Those are lightly grayed and means that you can click on them. And these drawers are regulations, stock, and species. Let's take a look at the regulations drawer. All right. So the regulations drawer, when we open that up, it'll tell you that statewide seasons and limits apply unless listed below. And we're always going to hit that message home, okay? So for Chautauqua Lake, pretty simple. We have muskie and tiger muskie. We have a special reg on them. We also have what's called a regional regulation. So if you guys remember back when we did the regulations changes, brook trout was always 5 and 2 out in the western part of the state, and it stayed that way after the reg proposal. So part of the state is one way, part of the state is another. That's a regional regulation. So even though Chautauqua Lake does not have brook trout, we have to post that because it's a regional regulation to provide due diligence. So earlier in the talk, I also told you that, you can always find out your statewide and area regulations. And there's a couple ways we can find this. You can find it right in the beginning when you log on, but you can also find it here. And if we tap on this, let's just say that Dan's out on Chautauqua Lake and he's not a big crappie fisherman and he can't remember the statewide regs for crappie. He can go there. It's formatted very closely to our regulations guide format. He can scroll down, find crappie, and see if he's legal or not, okay? Whether he's going to put that fish in the box or not. We think this is a pretty handy feature because not all of us remember to bring our guide out with us. Some people, it gets wet in their tackle box or they leave it in their glove box. So once again, they'll have those statewide regulations at their fingertips. We've tried our best to make this a convenient app. Okay, Scotty, let's close out of this. And I'm sorry if I'm losing my voice a little bit today, guys. So that's it for regulations. And we'll get into some a body of water with some more in-depth regulations shortly. Our next tab is stocking. You see a little stocking truck there, all right? If we click on that, it'll bring up the stocking for the lake. Kind of boring with Chautauqua Lake. We only stock muskellunge, but we do put the number of fish that we put in, and this is the stocking, what we call the stocking policy, okay? What actually goes in that water may be more, 13,000, give or take a few. And we also put the size because we want to manage those people's expectations. So you have fingerlings, spring yearlings, and larger than spring yearlings. We kept it pretty simple. And that's something you're going to try, I hopefully see throughout the app is that we've tried to keep things as simple as possible. And I'll get into that a little bit more later. If you hit that little arrow to the right, it'll also give you a picture and distinguishing characteristics. All right. Yeah. This is also evident in our stocking tab, which we'll go to next, or in our species tab, which we'll go to next. I'll close out of this. All right, so the last drawer there is a species drawer. And this drawer here, if you click on it, it'll come with any species that may be in that lake. And why I say may is because this actually hits our biological survey database, or statewide fisheries database, I should say. So if there is any record of any fish, it goes and hits that database and looks, all right? There's a little eye up there in the right-hand corner, if you can see it. Scotty's gonna hit on that right now. And that's a little info button that basically says that the listing is derived from historical data. It is not an indicator of current presence or abundance, all right? And we really hemmed and hawed over this, do we add the species or not? Because we don't want to mislead people thinking that, wow, this lake must be, full of black crappie if they have black crappie listed. No, not necessarily, but we also didn't want people to, we felt it was better to err to give them that information. And so we put this disclaimer in to say that Just because it's on there, it doesn't mean that it's relatively abundant or that it's even there anymore. If you were to click on Otsego Lake right now, it would say that there's Atlantic salmon there, where there's probably not too many Atlantic salmon left in Otsego Lake. We have not stocked it for years. So let's hit OK there. All right, Scotty, why don't you take us to a river stream? All right, so Scotty's going to go back to his home turf of the Delaware. And this is the West Branch of the Delaware. Okay, yep, that's right. So there, same thing. We have some initial information for streams and rivers. We just give the overall length. All right, we think that's helpful. You know, the one thing we've tried to keep in mind here is that anglers may or may not be from New York, or they may be from the other side of the state and want to try something new. So, you know, for some people, they may say, well, I know that, that's no big deal, but we think it'll be informative and helpful. So once again, let's hit view details. All right, you can see those same details, except the access detail here. We also have angler parking areas. So along the whole West Branch, there's 16 angler parking areas. That gives you a good idea. It's like, wow, so it looks like the stream's pretty accessible, some pretty good public access. Heck, maybe I'll spend an overnight there, you know, I'll fish in the afternoon and the morning. All right. Let's go to regulations just so we can show them what stream regulations look like. Oh, so we come here and it says, wow, see stream segments tab for manage regulations. What that's saying is, as you guys know from our trout stream management, we manage many of our streams by stream reach. Not the entire stream is the same. So if you go to the far right, okay, there's a button called, or there's a drawer called segments. Let's hit that segments. And there now it lists all the managed segments, all right, for the West Branch of the Delaware. Most of them are wild premier, all right, but it tells you where they are, all right. And you can click on any one of these and it will bring you right to that section. So let's go to the segment ID 760 stocked extended. All right. So once again, it says what the management category is. It says how long that management category is. So you're saying, wow, all right, 37 miles of a stocked section, you know, but pretty good chance I might catch a fish there. All right. And it's from the East Brook and Walton upstream 35.5 miles to Town Brook and Hobart. It's got 3 hand launches. I could actually put a small boat on there, and it's got 7 parking areas. Looks like a pretty good place to go fishing. All right. So that's pretty cool there. So we can look at the regulations for that segment. All right. And so that'll tell you for that category, stock extended, you know, once again, where it is, but what those regulations are. And then we can get to stocking. And so since this is a stocked extended, we can see that it's stocked 4 times a year. It'll tell you those weeks in approximate when it's stocked, okay, and what it's stocked with and how many. And once again, you know, it has a species, and if there's an arrow next to it, you can click on that. And, you know, if you're a new angler, it would show you, yeah, this is what a brown trout looks like. Here's some of the distinguishing characteristics. So now let's back up a little bit here. And now let's view on map. So if you wanted to say, hey, you know, I see there's the written description, but I really want to look out on the map, it will zoom and it will cut that piece and zooms right into it on the map. Now you can still zoom into that, okay, and you know, and get more finite detail. You want to say, okay, where's the road, whatever, you know, what road crossing do I want to start at? And so I think there's a lot of flexibility there. All right. Scotty, let's zoom into a stream with some public fishing rights. So as I said, features become available as you zoom in, all right? You zoom in far enough, then you can see the public fishing rights. These fuchsia colored, for lack of better words, areas are public fishing rights on the West Branch, all right? They are exaggerated. Public fishing rights, as you know, are only about 33 feet wide, okay? So we had to exaggerate them on the map or you wouldn't be able to see them. You go in far enough, okay, you can click on one of those. All right, and it comes up that it is public fishing rights. It could be something else. It could be a conservation easement. Can view the details, which it's not going to be very rich in information, but it does tell you that it's public fishing rights. Also has a disclaimer that the mapping areas are exaggerated for display purposes because we don't want people to think that they can be a half-mile off the stream. So, all right, so let's close that out, Scott. Why don't you hit that parking area since we're there? Let's start looking at some access sites. So when we want to look at, say, maybe I'll go to this parking area. Okay, so that's the Laurel Bank Road parking area. It's in deposit. It's nice because we'll tell you how many parking spots are there. We'll go to a trailered boat launch soon, which will show you some different information. If we hit the view details, once again, not a lot more, but it just expands upon that. It is public fishing rights, and there's notices. So say we had to close a parking lot down because we were paving it or it got washed out. We could provide a notice there. The other cool thing about it is the navigation feature. If you're driving, you'll be able to just hit that navigate, and this is going to take us from 625 Broadway to the Laurel Ave parking lot. But there it comes, and everyone's used to this. It's very familiar. It's based off Google Maps or whatever you have on your phone. 2 hours and 2 minutes. You can hit, proceed, and it'll take you there. The other thing, if you can look at Scotty's screen to the right there, you see the blue dot with the halo. The other thing is that you can have your location on while you're in the app. So if you were on a section of stream, it would tell you where you're at. Let's go to a trailered boat launch. Okay, Susquehanna River. So it tells you a launch site, hard surface trailer launch. It says that it's not universally accessible. Go to details and there'll be a little bit more in there. All right, 5 parking areas, no notices. And once again, I mean, the notices we think are pretty important because especially something like the Mohawk where it gets flood stage or something, we have to close things down. We can get a notice in there. What we don't want is people coming from out of state and they show up at a boat launch site and they can't get in. The ramp description basically says float on, float off, launching and retrieval for most trailer boats. Another good feature is, we don't want people with a $120,000 bass boat going to a gravel launch and thinking that they're going to be able to launch. So we're trying to give them as much information as we can. All right, Scotty, I'd like to show them the different views they can have besides you're in what's called community view, the map type right now. We also have topographic and we have satellite. So topographic looks very similar to this, just has your topo lines on it. Let's hit satellite, Scott. Okay, and can you go to a lake? Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And so what we've done there is that we have fooled around a little bit and it'll be interesting to get some feedback from anglers. We have manipulated the transparency so you can kind of see weed beds and shoreline a little bit. So the closer we scroll in or zoom in, I'm sorry, the more we can see some of these features. Not great, but good enough. And we think that if someone's looking at this, trying to decide where they might want to go fishing, depending on the species they're going for, this could be helpful. That, along with the depth information, area, just adds to it. Now, there was one more, go back to that previous panel with the different map types, Scott. Thank you. So you notice down on the lower right-hand side, it says offline maps. So the one thing that we built into this is that you can download an offline map. And we really recommend that if you have a good enough phone, which everybody should have for the most part, because it doesn't take up too much memory, you should download the offline map as soon as you get the package. And reason being is because if you get into an area with limited cell phone coverage, which we have quite a bit of it still in New York State, we don't want you to be without the app. This way you'll have it. and you'll be able to get almost all the features. Unfortunately, you will not be able to get the satellite feature, and you won't be able to get the feature where you can go to the DEC website for those top waters where there's more details. That's about it. Did I miss anything, Scott, that won't be there?
Possibly navigate.
Oh, and possibly you won't be able to navigate. Thank you, Scott. All right, staff, what did I miss? Oh, yeah, let's go to the hamburger. So you see it on Scott's map there, you have the 4 symbols up top there. You got the arrows going 4 different ways. You have the, what I call the sight scope there on the right-hand side. Then lower left, we have what we call that the hamburger. All right, so if we click on that, that's our legend basically. All right, and that legend also similar to the icons or symbology that you see as you zoom in and out, the legend follows that. If you were to zoom all the way out, you're not going to see much on that legend. All right, it says county boundaries. As you scroll in or zoom in and hit that legend, more things become available. I always forget the legend. I think that about wraps it up. So Dan, I'll open it up to questions.
All right, go for it, guys. Scott, can you put me back as the administrator when you get a chance?
Yep.
Unless you think you need to show something on the screen that somebody might have a question about, maybe we should keep it there.
We may need to. We may
Yeah,
need
let's do
to. I
that.
mean,
We'll do that.
That's happened before. All right, just leave it. We'll leave it then for now.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
All right. And besides questions, Dan, we're also very interested in just general feedback also.
Okay. I've been taking it for a ride here and I think I might have stumped it already. Is it possible that there's just certain lakes that there's not information on?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. So the one thing I failed to mention, if we went back to the dashboard there, there's the more info about Hunt Fish New York, which takes you to our webpage. And that basically says what the app is and what it's not. So if a body of water has no public access, all right, or no special regulations or no stocking, then it's not going to have details. So
Okay.
what body of water were you looking at, Dan?
Well, Labor Day weekend, we're going to be camping at Louis Lake Campground. And since I can never catch fish there, I go down to Mason Lake and I fish for bass. So I clicked on Mason Lake, which is on Route 30, just south of Indian Lake and Louis Lake Campground, between there and Speculator. And there's 3 hand launches. And when I click on the lake, and I go to view details, there's just nothing for species listed.
No. And that, yeah, so that's a great one. And that's probably because we have not been in there in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said before, you know, it hits off our statewide fisheries database. And if we have not been in there to survey, it won't show up.
Okay.
Speaking of Mason Lake, what's the story with kokanee in Mason Lake over the years?
Can you be more specific?
I just always heard through the grapevine there was kokanee in Mason Lake.
Yeah,
But
we stopped our kokanee program, I'd say back in 2008 or 2009.
So they could be in there.
Could, highly doubtful, but could. I'm never going to say never.
Maybe we can find out Labor Day weekend.
But does that explanation make sense, Dan?
Pardon me?
Does that explanation make sense?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. That was the first one I looked at because that's the next body of water I'm probably going to be going to that weekend. And we'll at least take a cruise down there and do a little fishing. So was this kind of based off the info locator, same technology, or something entirely different?
No, it's something entirely different. So the info locator is a department it's a department tool that's for many, many things, okay? If you look at the info locator, there's kind of like this regulatory branch of it and this outdoor recreation branch of it. And we put the trout stream stuff on there because it was very specific. And some of this stuff will go on there also, but it's a very broadly applied tool and would be very hard to develop an app for. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be optimized for a phone, but those are two different things, okay? And it would be web-based where this is not. So the trout stream stuff is somewhat similar, but this actually is it's a totally different product and a totally different rationale behind it.
I mean, I see, you know, you got the state lands marked, which is good. And if it looks to me like it's something that could be built upon, you know what I mean, for other purposes besides fishing. That's all.
So like I said before, Dan, too, is we really tried to balance, we wanted to make it simple and easy to use. But the other thing that we've tried to balance is, besides complexity, is trying to balance the amount of information and data that's stored, which equates to what kind of memory it's chewing up on your phone and how much data it's chewing up, you know, compared to usability. And the one thing I think you'll notice right now is that the app is pretty responsive. And when you click on things, the screens change relatively quick. We were a little worried about bloat going too much further. That being said, we do have plans for down the road of what we want to do with this. One of those things might be is we can tag all of our top bass waters. So if a person types in, hey, show me all the top bass waters, or show me places where I can fish for steelhead, those things would come up. But once again, we're always going to have to balance those types of desires with, you know, is it going to slow the app down too much? The good thing is technology is generally on our side, is that these phones just keep getting better and better.
So Stephen,
could I jump in a minute? Marty
Sure.
Garrow over here. This is an incredible show. I mean, talking about information and the surfeit of information. I'm boggled by all this. But I was wondering if you've got information as well on subspecies or strains of fish. For years, I've been very interested in Zapharelin, the brown trout that New York State began with Larry Strait, and I brought Zapharelin into New York in the 1980s, and now Zapharelin are all over the Great Lakes, with Wisconsin essentially stocking Lake Michigan with nothing but Zapharelin. So I'm wondering whether you have any Zapharelin information, or also whether you got information about the different strains of brook trout that have been put in the different lakes in the Adirondack. Mm-hmm. Where do anglers go for that kind of information now?
Yeah, so let me address the Zapharelin first. So as you know, we stopped stocking Zapharelin. Wow, I was still a young man then. That might even been before I came to Albany, and that program was terminated based on a study. I do know that other states are using them. Maine is just starting to use them, and we are also in the process of redeveloping our Rome strain. We're crossing that with a Oriskany Creek fish to try and refresh our genetics. As far as brook trout goes, that strain information, I mean, there's stuff on our website, but if you want to know exactly what pond contains, whether it's a Horn Lake or a Windfall,
right,
or a Little Tupper, we don't have that readily available. I mean, we can get it for you, but we don't make that readily available just because there hasn't been a need. I mean, we don't have that in the app because that would just be, I don't think it would be information that everybody would be looking for, but perhaps I'm wrong there. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does, and I'll be interested. I'd be interested in talking with some of those people that are still fooling with the Oriskany and Rome hatchery strains. That's or the Saffron stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, you
Because I'm
can,
doing a survey on that.
all right.
Yeah.
You talk to Maureen and we can set up an interview just on that if you'd like.
Yeah, Maureen, give me I'll get your contact. Thanks.
I'll stick it in the chat too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions for these folks?
I got one for, maybe I missed it, Dave figure here, maybe I missed it, but say for instance, my buddy and I were gonna go fish at Tisco Lake later in the week here. I'm not that familiar with the depths of all and the topo maps, is it very clear? I'm trying to call it up right here with my phone, you know, where the deepest spots are, shallowest parts and stuff like that. Is that clearly easy to get here?
No, so we don't have morphometrics associated with the bodies of water. That might be in phase 2 down the road, but
Right.
we don't have it right now. Now for Atisco, that is one of our top waters, so I'm not sure if we have that on our website or not. Doesn't look like it.
I didn't see it. That's because
But
you're
the
always
other
out
thing-
there. You're wondering, am I in like the deepest part of the lake, or is this really, you know, if you're unfamiliar with the lake, which I am.
I did see contour maps on some of the lakes I looked at earlier. Just when it goes to DEC's webpage, you can go to the contour map. Maybe not for every lake, but a few of the ones I looked at, I did see the contour maps.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the other thing too is that there it is right there, the lake contour map. See what comes up. There it is.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. There we
So that
go.
would give you a general idea, but it was there.
Okay. All right. I missed it.
But,
All right.
but
Thanks.
I'm glad you brought that up because, that's the one thing that we talked about, maybe in a different phase of this, that we would have more morphometric maps. I guess, the one thing I'm interested in is so many anglers I talked to today have Navonics too, that, they have the Navonics on their phone already, for $10 a year. And it's pretty darn accurate, and it's pretty top notch. So once again, balancing that, do we put this on at the risk of really slowing down the app or not, and keeping it simple? But these are
Right.
all things we'll work through. I think we've got a really good base to start with, though.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you do get to Dave, if you get to the page where you do see that black and white map, if you know how to do that on your phone, you can always save it as a file to your phone somewhere, so you'll have it on your phone when you're out there fishing.
Okay. Makes sense.
And we should have had you on the app development team.
You know what I do a lot? I take pictures of maps. Like, of course, we use the Sportsman's Connection book there, but I use Navonics a little bit too, and mainly the free web app. And I'll actually just take a screenshot of a lake I'm gonna go to and save the image to my phone, and then I have it with me if I want, or print it, either or I memorize it. Any other questions, folks?
Yeah, I've got a suggestion. Steve,
Hi, Glenn.
how are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Good, good. Well, this is a great job here, and I have a suggestion. It may not be workable, but it could improve the app and give sportsmen more information and bring revenue to the DEC.
Okay.
If I didn't know that you had advertisements in the fishing abstract, for instance, Game Laws, I wouldn't even suggest this. But since you do that, I'm thinking that for each of these bodies of water where you have more information, wouldn't it be great if you had information on nearby tackle shops, guides,
Yeah.
charters, service stations, lodging, restaurants. And I mean, that's a full-time job for one or two people in your staff to track down this advertising. And yes, it puts you in a way in competition with New York Outdoor News and other publications. But like I say, since you're taking advertising, maybe this is another way where you can provide more information and bring in a lot of revenue.
Yeah. So number one, I'm not even sure, Bill Connors is on the phone, so he's a CFAB member. He can help me out here. I'm not so sure that the law is written that we could receive money exactly that way. Just so you know, Glenn, I mean, we do not use advertising in the fishing guide anymore. We found that it wasn't worth it for the fishing guide. A little bit different for the hunting guide, but we don't do it. And plus, it went against we're trying to make fishing as simple as possible, and we didn't want people to have to look at a bunch of advertisements to just find the regulation in the guide. So that would be a little bit tricky from a revenue standpoint, and it's kind of not where we wanted to go. I mean, the one thing I failed to mention is, this app is free, and that was very important to the department, that it was for free for everyone. Once you get into a revenue stream of such, you can see where revenue kind of the tail starts wagging the dog, and we don't want this. We want this for the anglers and anglers alone. What I will say though, Glenn, is, and this is my hope, all right, and it's the hope of the department, is that having this app will lead to better retention of our anglers. Right now, our churn rate based on its data is a little old right now, is about 38%. When I say 38%, that means only 1 in 5 is buying a license every 5 years. All right. And I'm simplifying that quite a bit. But anyway, what we're thinking is this will really help with that. And it'll help in 2 ways. It'll help, number one, just in the sheer fact that we think we're providing a service that's making fishing easier and more enjoyable and will retain people. And those people who we retain, hopefully will recruit more people. Second of all, the one thing, and Colleen Donetto, our decals expert, who's on the phone, can weigh in, is we're going to be able to send push notifications. So Glenn, if you get on here, okay, and you say, I want to get in a tackle box, I want to go find a brook trout stream in southern Adirondacks, and you get on there and it says, hey, Glenn, just letting you know your fishing license is going to expire in 15 days. Do you want to renew it right now? And you can click a button, and you're going to be able to renew that. And so we think that that's really going to help us from a revenue standpoint. So I understand what you're saying. It's a good thought. But for advertising, we wouldn't even have the staff to handle that. I mean, it would be gigantic. And one more thing I want to say, because you made me think of something else. Earlier I said that when you look at the access sites that we have on here, it's limited to our access sites, basically state access sites and some DEP access sites. And the reason we did that, okay, even though that we have information on a lot of more municipal access sites and private marinas, we don't have control over those. And what I mean by that is, what I don't need is, if a private marina goes out of business, there's no way to notify me, and I just can't check every day to make sure that there's 400 marinas that are still in business. All right. I don't want to mislead people. So that's another factor, is just keeping up with the data.
Yeah, I was going to suggest as a follow-up to Glenn. Like I said, the question I always got when I was an outdoors writer is like, where's the closest bait shop? Where can I find bait? Or can I get gas on this lake? I mean, I don't know, but I guess your answer is that you can't keep track of all these places.
No, I mean, we're maintaining this with, just a few people here. We have a great contractor that actually, built the app for us, but we maintain the data, and it's a gigantic data set, guys. I mean, it's multiple data sets that are crammed into one big geographic information database. And it's robust to begin with. So anyway, so Scott, question for you. If someone navigates, all right, to a boat launch site will those things like bait shops and stores show up on that screen?
Well, you still have the power of Google, you know, if you happen to make it to Google Maps and you can use the around me search nearby
Yeah.
me functions, yes.
Yeah. So might be another way to get at it and right through the app when you hit that navigate feature, Dave and Glenn.
I have a question, Steve.
Sure. My screen is kind of wacky here, so I don't know who's talking.
This is Bill Hiltz Jr.
Oh, hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm great, Steve. How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Good. So I went on the app and I plugged in Erie Canal because that's like a quarter mile from my house. And I clicked on the stocking and it had tiger muskie being stocked, 2,200 of it. But it doesn't say where on the Erie Canal. So I guess maybe the Erie Canal is too generic. But
Yeah.
how would you narrow that down? Do they actually break up the different sections of the Erie Canal?
So the Erie Canal, as you know, I mean, that's a strange beast to begin with.
Sure.
And I'm going to have Scott actually answer that question for us. That is not segmented. All right. The segmented streams are only for the trout streams. All right. Because that's the only place in our management that we have management categories. Down the road, maybe we will start segmenting our warm water streams, all right, into management sections, but we're far away from that. I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime, but we are getting into category management, which I think has worked well for the trout streams. So with the Erie Canal, you're basically asking me, you know, well, could we get this point where they're at exactly stocked in? If that could be on the app, is that what you're asking me?
Well, yes, I would like to be able to identify where those 2,200 tiger muskies were stocked. You know, it could be a story right there.
Yeah.
And with the canal being 400 miles long,
Yeah.
you know, it's about to narrow that down. I didn't know if that was broken down anyplace else, I guess.
No, it's not right now, but we may be able to do that down the road. Like I said, for our trout, you know, the reaches, you know, we know where we're stocking those reaches. We don't have the pinpoints down there, but we may be able to do that down the road. That cuts both ways though, because, you know, we received, like with the trout stream plan, a lot of negative feedback about quote unquote truck chasers, you know, and that we don't want people right on top of the fish as soon as they're stocked. So we'd have to think that one out too. So.
Well, I can't believe you're stocking tiger muskies at a catchable size.
Well, no, they're all fingerlings. So when you clicked on that, can you go to Erie Canal and click on so we can bring it up? I mean, Bill, you know, I mean, you're aware of the stocking information that's on the website. We do have the, you know, we do have the stocking by region and by county. So if you would look at Erie Canal and it would show you. So it says right there, when you clicked on Erie Canal, it says 2,200 fingerlings.
Right.
But we don't know if they were stocked on my side of the canal or your side of the canal. I understand that.
Sure. I was just interested after I saw it listed under species. I didn't know there were tiger muskies in the canal, you know, it just piqued.
But you know, you bring up a good point, and I'm hoping that you know, anglers would take the next step and say, well, maybe I'll go to the DEC website and see if I can find out a little bit more. And these are all things, this is great feedback. This is what we're looking for. And we're keeping a running list of all this stuff. So a year from now, we'll go back and we'll say, okay, where can we make improvements for the anglers?
Okay. Well, so far it looks great.
Thank you.
Steve, I do have a question.
Okay.
Insofar as the development of the app, who actually owns the code, the department or the developer?
So the department owns the data and the developer owns the app itself.
Okay, and what happens if we lose that developer?
Well, this will go out. So as you know, that we did this through our decals vendor. It's part of our decals contract. We structured it that way we had the forethought to structure it that way. And, you know, sure, if somebody new bids on that, they would either have to use the same subcontractor that we used, or they would have to develop it themselves, but it would have to meet the same specifications.
But we could end up paying for the platform again.
We could, but they won't be very successful if they go too high because they won't be the low bidder. But no, there's always potential, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think I may have one more for Steve. I want to, he was got off easy on that other one. The water classification, whether it's A, B, C, and all the subsets, is
Yep.
there any way this bridges to that information for streams?
It could, but I don't think I would want to go there because that's how does that relate to fishing?
Well, I have a broader issue in mind. You know,
Mhm.
you know, it could, but not in your world, probably.
Yeah, I could see where CT would help you, you know, if it's a stream that's, you know, just under statewide regs that would tell you that, okay, it's a CT stream. But A, B, C, I mean, once again, I mean, now you're looking at, because that's also based on stream reach, and you would be breaking up every stream reach in the state, be a gargantuan amount of data. And for little, in my mind anyway, Bill, for little value to the anglers. So
Yeah.
you'd be chewing up a lot of space for little value. And like I said, you know, we sat down and, you know, as typical fisheries fashion, you know, the first thing we did when we wrote, we did our goals and objectives, and then we talked about our guiding principles, and keeping things simple was a guiding principle. That it was tough because, boy, our eyes got real big and we started dreaming, oh, let's do this, let's do that. But every time we did that, it was harder to use and it chewed up more memory. So
Slow it down too.
Yeah.
There is an issue that I want to talk to you about, and probably going to have to do it offline, because there is an argument that there's a bill in the legislature that's people are attempting to move that would cause you to have to manage Class C waters like A's and B's. And I mean, my heart's in my throat on that one, because I don't think the job can be done with the resources you have. That's part of what prompted the question.
yeah, that's something that I can't comment on legislation, you know that. So
Yeah, I know, but let's not talk about legislation. Let's talk about, do you have the resources to do the job as it's structured today? And the answer is barely. So difficult.
So how many, has everybody on the phone downloaded it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't do it, Steve.
No?
No, I'm still having problems trying to sign in. Surprisingly.
I think Frank brings up a good point. Is if you had the Hunt and Fish app prior, you need to either uninstall it and re-download it, or install the update to get the new tackle box feature as well.
right.
Yeah, so
At the very least, you do have to do the update.
Yes.
So Frank, I will have Colleen get in touch with you as soon as we get off this call.
Okay, does she have about 10 days? You know, my problems are never simple, Steve.
I can't call you as soon as we get off this call because I have to go get my kid from school, but I can get a hold of you after that. I can't leave him there. I would, but I just can't. I can get in trouble for that.
We'll get you taken care of, Frank.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I did have one other question, Steve. When it comes to updating the information, I know that you know, it's a lot of the state state-run facilities or state-run state-run launch ramps, things of that nature. Is that going to be accurately represented when there's a closure to the ramp because of high water, or maybe the ramp's unusable anymore because of, you know, the concrete has fallen in? Is that going to be noted in the app as a reasonable update, or are people going to find out after they get there?
No. So if you remember, and Scott, can you go into a boat launch site again? Perhaps go to South Shore on Oneida Lake. Or anywhere, doesn't really matter. There's South Shore right there. Okay, if you hit the view details. So remember I said before, it says notices.
Notices, yes.
So the notices, that we reserve that space just for that, Frank. So we can say, there's a couple things on that notice. It may say, if we were on Thompson's Lake, okay, which is the little lake around the corner from me, from where I live, in that notice, it would say horsepower restriction. All right. And it would tell you what the horsepower restriction is. All right. But that notice is also reserved so where if we have to close something down, all right, we can provide notice. So what we don't want is people driving from, you know, Scranton, Pennsylvania, all the way up to a launch site to find it's closed. Does that answer your question? I think we might have lost Frank.
Yeah, I think it answers it for him.
You can fill him in, Bill.
Yep. He's still using a dial phone.
All right, guys. Well, if we have no further questions, Maureen needs to pick up her kids. Steve looks like he could use a beer.
Well, I mean, you know, just so you guys know, we have a promotional video on the website featuring some clown. And then we have, Colleen did a video on how to download the app and how to get it on your phone. They were in the press release. I think we might have had a snafu, right, Maureen, with the instructional on the download video. But
correct, the one on the website. I think I sent out a new, at least to the outdoor writers email list that I have, we sent out a quick correction with the correct link, so it should be good.
Yep. And
it's correct on the website.
We seem to be getting quite a bit of play on you know, on the YouTube channel and stuff, which, you know, I don't do a lot of that stuff. So, but, you know, you can use those as a resource for you when you're right. So
Yeah, I was in line at a home improvement store yesterday, and I overheard a kid talking to an elderly gentleman, if you will, about he had just taken up fishing. His only complaint was, I don't know where to go. And I said, when I got in front of him and I had a captive audience because he couldn't leave, I said, we have a solution for your problem. And I told him all about the app.
There, thank you, Bill. Well, and really, you know, that's kind of what it's all about. It really serves a few different purposes. It's great for the ardent angler. I mean, look at this. If you're an Adirondack brook trout fisherman, you know, I can see you're just going to be panning around that map, clicking on ponds to see if they're stocked or what's going on. I mean, there's a wealth of information there, but also for a first-time angler, it's just saying, where's the closest lake around me where I can go where I might be able to catch a sunfish, you know?
But I had an epiphany this morning when I was writing about this. There's no more secret fishing spots.
Yeah. We work for everyone, Bill.
Yeah, well, making it too easy on them.
Well, the internet's had a lot to do with that too. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you have any other questions, you can email Maureen and she'll tap into me. Maureen, anything else?
No, just thanks again for the short notice, being able to pull this together so that Steve and the gang can put on the full show.
Hey, Maureen, if you have a second, can I just chat with you for a minute?
Certainly. Yep.
Okay. When everybody else signs off.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you
I'll
very much.
just say one thing before we leave. The only unknown fishing spots are the ones that you don't know about.
That's right.
And Greg, if you can give me back control of this, that would be great. Once you.
He's working on it.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you
Glenn. Good
again.
to see you again.
Thank you.